Welcome, Dr. James Beckett, Sports Card Insights outtake episode from Hobby Hotline last Saturday, on with Orlando and John Newman. Edited heavily to fit into my 15-minute format. Thanks sponsors, Topps, Panini, Upper Deck, Heritage Auctions, Huggins Scott Auctions, Mike Stadium Sports Cards, Burbank Sports Cards, Beckett Media, Beckett Grading, Beckett Authentication, ComC.com, trying to make a complete record of my hobby journey in my podcast. And here it is. I was an early attendee at the Comic Cons because we were doing some non-sport stuff. Comic Con is a huge phenomenon, but it's most closely associated with San Diego. There are other locations, but it was many years before the Comic Con embraced other venues, other locations. It was synonymous with San Diego for so many years, a certain weekend of the year. I am not hoping that Orlando, the city, or Pittsburgh come along until Fanatics is ready. And I'd like to see them do a few more Javits, because I think that's where they're going to get the maximum bang. Lots of bucks, but they're going to get a lot of attention from major media being there. I'd like to see them perfect that before they go to Orlando, because Orlando is a wonderful city, but they were not ready. And to come off half-cocked in either of those other locations would have been bad. So I'd like to see them get a good run in the Javits Center for a few years and have people saying, you've got to bring this to our city. Before right now, they can't replicate New York City, Manhattan, in Orlando. It's a completely different vibe. So I'd like to see them give it a few more years and make it like the Comic Con, where you're just thinking, I've got to be there. And they're not quite there yet. It's not a moneymaker for them. It's a promotional thing. It's going to be good for the hobby, but it's not a promotional benefit unless it's super well done. They've had some middle management, at least, if not leadership changes, and probably some philosophical differences of how to do this new kind of show, which for a while might be unique to New York City. And that's okay.
Great comparison with Comic-Con, because I think those are the events that really boost the hobby. Look what's happened with Comic-Con. It's a worldwide event. And I think that Fanatics can become that.
The Babe Ruth called shot jersey wound up selling for $24.1 million on Heritage Auctions, the highest ever for a jersey and sports memorabilia sale. If it's the actual jersey, which I know some people called into question on their side of things, but assuming it is, it's a great piece of history.
It's been a big year for memorabilia, not just the Ruth jersey, but other stuff like Jordan sneakers that went for millions of dollars, Dorothy's shoes, and the Wizard of Oz that went for $32 million, and also the original photograph of Mickey Mantle with the 51 Bowman that went for, I think, $800,000 or $900,000. A lot of money this past year went into memorabilia, big money in memorabilia.
We said a few years ago, why are you paying millions of dollars for a tiny swatch on a 2.5 by 3.5 card when you could buy the whole jersey? Now you can't buy the whole jersey. Somebody wanted to pay that much, and the photo matching, Ruth had at least 2 jerseys every year. He had a backup. It could be contemporaneously photo match, but photo match to the game. It's an inexact science. And as far as ruby red slippers, I had a friend that owned the ruby red slippers. Newsflash, there's more than one pair.
Yes.
From the movie. They had a backup pair, at least one backup pair.
They say there's 3 pairs out there, but this was the
at
first
least 2
one
and
that
probably
she wore
3,
or something.
Right?
Yeah.
But, so there's foot stains inside the slippers, whatever. It's just anything that it proves.
There's Judy Garland DNA.
What it proves is increasingly the power of the story. The
Right.
Jordan left feet or whatever they were half a pair. Goes for huge bucks. The other jersey that was in Babe Ruth's locker when he didn't wear it to the called shot is still a multi-million-dollar budget. It's millions, not 24 millions. So subtle differences, the story really matters.
The story matters, yes. And Providence, look at the Mantle card this year that sold for $12.5 million because it came from Mr. Mint.
The National under new leadership, first foray this year in Cleveland. There were hiccups. There are always going to be hiccups, as no one's going to pitch a perfect National. The 25 National is going to be in Chicago. Actually, the next 3 are going to all be in Chicago.
Compared to the next 3 years in Chicago, Cleveland was a very unique experience. We saw there were unusual circumstances, an unusually large crowd. It was bringing back a facility that had been literally decommissioned and then brought back. and traffic flow had been greatly underestimated. Some of those things maybe they should have anticipated, but they didn't get high marks. A lot of that was associated with Cleveland. In Chicago, they really need to hit their stride, and I believe they will. Chicago's tried and true. I really have high hopes for these next three, and really the first one. I think this 2025 National is going to set another new record, and I think these guys are up to the task. I love John Brogy. Mike Burkus was a close personal friend. They got the thing going, but I'm hopeful that Joe and Jimmy and Brian can really hit a Grand Slam home run this year. Cleveland was not a Grand Slam because of these circumstances.
But the hobby, in my opinion, is stronger than it's ever been. They really have to put out a full force effort to make this one the best one ever. And
I like to see it move around, though, guys. I know Chicago's a great venue and probably everyone's consensus number one pick. Do you think we're going to see it make the circuit again?
Basically, here are two scenarios. One that plays to what you're saying, John, and the other goes the other way. I think it's very possible that the 25 National will set a new record because, as Orlando said, I think the hobby is as hot as it's ever been. People know that it's tried and true. Okay, here's the issue, John. If the 26 National is even bigger in Chicago, if the 27 National is even bigger, another new record attendance, you're going to find that Chicago's going to always be the National if it sets 3 new records. Now, on the other hand, if the 25 National sets the high point, and for any reason, 26 is a drop-off, or 27 is a slight perceptible drop-off, then yeah, you're going to go all around the country. But it's very likely that the next 3 years could be the best 3 years ever of the National. I think it's good for the industry that we have a strong National. Secondarily, I think it's good that it moves around the country. If that's new record attendance scenario happened, it'd be hard to vote against it. It's a sure thing. You realize it's a lot less work for the promoters, for the committee. They spend a lot of time scoping out Atlanta, which has had a couple Nationals, and they weren't great. This is many years later, but you got a bird in the hand, a very sure thing. Remember, it's the dealers that vote.
Right.
I guess the National will never be on the West Coast again.
Here's the scenario. Rob Veras, the Burbank show, which has become the West Coast almost national, they start pulling 6-figure attendance. They will get serious national consideration if they want it. But Rob is now closely aligned in his business with Fanatics. If Fanatics said, you know what, we support Rob, he's already drawn 100,000 for a regional show, we think he can draw, with our help, 200,000 in Anaheim Convention Center, or wherever it would be. That would get serious consideration, and it should. We don't need more dealers. We need probably some improvement in the dealers. Basically, for the National to get 50% bigger, we don't need 50% more booths. It's hard enough to see every booth when you're there, okay? But more customers, who wouldn't be in favor of that? And if it's a little bit more crowded, as long as it's not fire marshal prohibitive, then bring on more customers with big fat wallets.
The police needs to really step up their game and at least give us some updates on what's happening with some of these bigger cases. I've noticed as the hobby grows and becomes more popular, more of these criminals are seeing the big dollars that are in these cards.
Now you guys are realizing why I make a big deal about being a dollar box guy. I am immune. Nobody's going to follow me because they're going to get a hernia trying to carry my box away on my dollar box cards. They're going to get frustrated.
But you better watch out for the dollar box gang. I love the concept of the Major League debut patches. I think it's a great chase card. I think it's a part of history. These debut patches come right from that player's first game. Skeens is the big one.
You guys are focusing too much on debut. The focus really here, I think, long-term is going to be patches. The fact that they now have removable patches that they can put. There'll be all-star patches. There could be birthday patches. There could be any number of things because the hobby is known for beating a dead horse. So there will be additional patches. That's number one. Number two is we have now seen, because of some uproar, that debut patches, bounties, and other kinds of bounties are going to be increasingly time delimited. In other words, you've got 3 months to claim the bounty. For accounting purposes, you can't have a bounty that's everlasting. You can't close your books on the year with this outside thing. So I think all bounties will have time limits and they need to be short. And that dovetails into the number 3 thing, is that along with the CT scanning means product is intended to be opened sooner. If the bounty is only good for 3 months or 6 months, you need to open that stuff in 3 to 6 months. That eliminates some of this chance that something's been CT scanned and you know what's in there. Okay, just get the product and open it.
How crazy is that with this CAT scanning of these higher level products that you can see what's in there without even taking the cellophane?
I'm just saying, they could find out that the Skeens 1-of-1 debut patch is in there. But then, like I said, there needs to be no advantage to holding unopened product. And I don't think there is anymore. In fact, there's a fear factor that when I go to sell it, so open the product. We are collectors of cards. It's okay if somebody wants to collect unopened packs and have a display like that. Unopened cases, boxes, whatever. You can do that. But now there's a financial disincentive to holding on to unopened stuff. And I think the bounty limit of 3 months or 6 months gives you ample opportunity to. Fanatics, Panini, Upper Deck, they're producing products, so it'll be opened and sold and traded, and it's exciting to open product. It's not exciting to say, hey, I've got 5 unopened cases in my basement.
It depends what those cases are, but I agree with you.
The higher end they are, the more nervous you're going to be.
I'll use one product that just came, the Gretzky rookie case that was sold, and it wasn't sold, and it was relisted, and then resold. That's not a CAT scan's not going to really find. Plus, we know there's Gretzky rookies in there.
No, that's not true. There are 2 Gretzky rookies in some of the boxes and 1 Gretzky rookie in some of the boxes. You could use the CT scanner to open up the case, which, again, the uniqueness is it's an unopened case, but it has been opened and then resealed by Baseball Card Exchange. They could reopen it and look at each individual box and say, I'm going to sell the ones that have 1, because I've got 2 lottery tickets if I've got 2 Gretzkys in there, and I've got 1. So they're twice as good. So this is scary, guys. This is scary because criminals are more sophisticated than I am. They're thinking, how do you beat the system?
When this story broke, it blew my mind that a piece of medical imaging technology used in the health field is serving this purpose now to do illicit stuff in the hobby. It's just crazy. And it just brings, who do I buy from? Do I trust they haven't done this? There's a rumor that there's a big wax dealer that has utilized this. I hope it's not true. It's a rumor, it's alleged, but it's crazy. If you own a medical facility and collect cards, there's a place in Connecticut now. They're advertising $75 a box to utilize the technology. It's not even hidden anymore. Great point, Dr. Jim, that you have to find a wax source that you trust and open it quick.
It's not packs as much as it's boxes. It's not boxes as much as it's cases. The case quantity is the problem here because it doesn't cost any more to CT scan the case as opposed to a box, as opposed to a pack. So it's against the counter instinct that we have of don't buy packs, don't buy box. You might get the bad box. Buy the whole case, then you're guaranteed to get the case hit. It throws that upside down. But again, the cards need to be opened. And when they're opened, if you're holding wax, you got to be thinking about opening because people are going to presume they're not going to pay you as much because they're going to think it's been searched. So open it and sell the contents. Guys, Paul Skeens could have an accident. He could have an injury that's worse than Tommy John surgery. He could have some horrible thing, and I hope that doesn't happen for the sake of baseball, for the Pirates, for him, for his girlfriend. But right now he's riding high, a lot of sizzle. He's performed, but he's a young guy. Is he better than what Steven Strasburg was coming up? I don't think so, but Steven Strasburg is no longer moving the needle in our hobby. My point is, if what we come out of this is buy the product, open it up, and deal with it. Because Paul Skeens, that value could go from $1 million to $5,000 if something horrible happened to him. I don't want that to happen. If the bounty is going to expire at the end of the year, then you're thinking, I need to open it and deal with it right now. That's what collecting is supposed to be. When I was a kid, last year's cards were junk. People only cared about this year's cards when I was a little kid. I told my buddy, I said, I actually care about last year's cards. Don't put them in the dumps. I can take them off your hands.